Why does it show that? Because the screen's got switched. So that this is.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the next installment of the NACDA and Affiliates virtual programming lineup. I am Dana Leroy, Communications Manager for NACDA, and we are glad to have you with us for this sponsored content session with Legacy Building Solutions. Today's session is going to focus on rewriting the playbook on affordable sports facilities, tension fabric structures. We're going to hear from Shannon Humbert, Project Design Consultant for the sports and recreation industry at Legacy Building Solutions. Shannon has over a decade of experience working in the athletics and sporting industry and has been dedicated to helping companies, schools, and community groups of all sizes find creative, cost-effective ways to build world-class facilities and train champions. Before we officially begin, a quick reminder for our live attendees to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window to send in your questions, as we will have allotted time at the end of the presentation to answer them. And with that, I'll hand it over to Shannon to start the discussion.
Hey, Dana. Thank you all for joining us today. Established in 2010, Legacy Building Solutions created the technology that allows tension fabric membranes to be applied to a solid steel tapered rigid I-beam frame made of solid plate steel. The resulting buildings combine the flexibility and design options of solid steel frame with the benefits of traditional fabric buildings. 10 years ago, Legacy changed the way fabric buildings are designed, manufactured, and constructed. Ben Fox, our founder, had decades of experience installing fabric structures as a contractor for one of North America's largest fabric building companies. Along the way, he developed strong opinions about how to make a better building. He wanted to create structures based on well-established engineering principles, what our general manager calls engineering certainty. Steel I-beams were the obvious choice. Ben also wanted a tight, clean look to the buildings that could be installed safely and provide long-term performance with both the frame and fabric in mind. So Legacy began working with individual frame-to-frame panels instead of large mono covers. The Legacy team then worked to develop a system to tension the panels using a unique process, which is now patented. Legacy then partnered together with a global leader in the industrial fabrics to provide an enhanced fabric that offered better strength and durability. More recently, we've added a state-of-the-art paint shop, which allows us to apply epoxy coatings to the building framework. Epoxy coatings provide exceptional protection to the steel, especially in corrosive environments. Legacy is located in central Minnesota, but we have a global reach. We have installed buildings in the Andes Mountains, southern Florida and the Hurricane Belt, northern Alberta. We've recently completed a project for the U.S. military in Guam designed to withstand 195-mile-per-hour winds. Over the past 10 years, we've designed, manufactured, and installed more than 400 buildings, totaling more than 9 million square feet. Our tension fabric buildings are different in the way used rigid I-beam solid steel frames. If you see one in progress, it looks like any other construction project. Steel beams, straight walls, and peaked roof. Our steel frames also use to design and build structures with more than 300 feet of clear span space without central supports. We don't have curved walls or dome-shaped ceilings, like many other fabric buildings you may have seen. You get to use all of the space you purchased. You don't have to adjust to the curvature of the walls or domes. From an athletic director or coach's perspective, having ceilings is indispensable. You don't want your quarterback's passes bouncing off low ceilings. The same goes for your baseball team with high fly balls. Your volleyball squad will thank you for the practice that is unencumbered by space and height limitations. Your sports facility is there to give you the completely natural venue to practice. And you shouldn't need to reduce your expectations just because you took your practice indoors. Legacy's mission is to meet your need with our design. Besides the strength steel gives our customers, a few added things. And before we move on from there, the video that you saw, again, just shows our rigid steel frame building being constructed and not moving or flexing or changing as we get ready to tension fabric over that building. Strong frames unlock unlimited design options. Straight sidewalls create a more interior space, allow large floors in any location, as well as flexibility to design with any sidewall heights needed. Rigid steel frames give building owners a level of confidence. The engineering and durability are proven. We use design software that is universally recognized in the pre-engineering metal building industry. Almost any engineer can look at our blueprints and instantly understand what's going on. No translation needed. We can hang nets, goalposts, scoreboards, basketball hoops, HVAC, fire suppression, and more from our solid steel roof beams. We can also support mezzanines that can be used for additional office space or balcony seating, entertainment, as well as other space needed. And again, just to help everybody understand, our buildings are custom designed for the customer's needs. And as you see different pictures of different buildings and we get into some of our case studies, this is what helps you as the customer figure out how you're going to use your space that's available to you and how we're going to design a building that can meet all of the needs that you might have for your programs. A rigid steel I-beam frame building will also help you meet code requirements, including occupancy ratings, environmental codes. When you can support amenities from the roof beams, you get uninterrupted clear span space on the main floor with no supporting columns. It's important to remember that Legacy makes permanent structures. Sometimes people think fabric buildings are temporary. Our sports facilities are permanent and semi-permanent buildings and held to the same strict engineering standards as other buildings. They're designed to last for decades. And again, as we made the move to patenting our own building system, again, being able to meet energy code, being able to meet building codes, being able to handle what each individual jurisdiction, city, township, county, in all of the states across the United States and across the globe, it was certainly important to us to be able to do that and to do it safely. Legacy has recently embarked on a new project offering to protect our steel beams from corrosion. We have a new manufacturing plant where we use steel beads to blast and clean the steel surface. We also offer a variety of paint options from the basic primer to a variety of epoxy coatings. At Legacy, we exclusively use Exotech fabric, a PVC material for a few reasons. It is very durable, has a high UV resistance. It gave us the ability to extend our warranty to 25 years. It provides our building exterior an extended lifespan. I could go more in depth about the physics of the fabric and its resilience, but I think it would be better to show you. A few years ago, Legacy wanted to test the strength of the Exotech fabric and the attachment system. We weren't sure how the fabric would stand up to this kind of extreme stress. There are two things I'd like to note about this demonstration. First, this wasn't just a test of the fabric, it was a test of our entire building system. The panel he is driving on is identical to one of our roof panels, right down to the steel frames, the keyter rails, the half-inch bolts, and the tensioning. The second thing to watch is the fabric panel itself. We weld our fabric panels together in-house using special tools that bond the seams together. The seams are just as strong as the fabric itself. The panel he's driving all over is one of our welded panels. If you look closely, you can see the seam. Finally, the fabric panel itself was sagging quite a bit when we took the skid loader off. With that much stress, we thought the sag would be permanent, but Legacy's Exotech fabric returned to its original shape the next day. And again, this was important to us, especially in the sports arena. Again, you're going to have people, balls, other pieces of equipment inside your athletic facilities that are going to bump into walls and maybe even push up against the wall for an extended period of time. And again, with traditional materials, it's going to cause damage and to cause expense to repair those walls. With a fabric interior liner, we've been able to demonstrate and show that it's going to be a very low maintenance inside, interior and exterior. Unlike metal cladding, which is attached to the frame with thousands of screw holes that leak air, potentially water over time, our airtight fabric eliminates significant heating and cooling losses. Additional, without all the screw holes, you won't be chasing air and water leaks for the life of the building. In a legacy patented fabric attachment system, each fabric panel secured to the frame using a Keter rail system. The most important advantage of any Keter system is that it evenly distributes the pressure created by the wind and the snow to every frame, not just the end frames. The legacy Keter rail system allows for greater pre-tensioning on the panels, which means more horizontal tensioning and a longer lifespan for each panel. It also creates a smooth appearance with the fabric stretched evenly on the building without puckering and wrinkling. That gives us the clean look we're aiming for when we started this journey. Our attachment system is proprietary. The way we tension our roofs and walls works with the physical properties of the fabric, so retensioning a few years later isn't necessary. Most of our fabric structures on the market require retensioning several times after installation. We don't. Our system also makes the construction of a legacy building safer. Frames are completely braced and all cross cables are installed and tensioning before adding fabric onto our building. Safety is always first during construction, and our crews know it. Again, before we move on, you saw a video earlier that saw our building being erected. Once our building's erected, throughout the last couple paragraphs, I talked about how we go about tensioning the fabric, and it's very important to remember our buildings do not change. We do not flex them. We do not have to add other supports. Our building is completely supported as it would be if you applied any sort of material on the building. In our case, we tension the fabric. And again, as you heard me say, tensioning the fabric in the proper directions and the proper order is what allows us to tension it properly the first time. Depending on the location, use of the building, and local energy code requirements, we will provide insulation with the proper R value to meet your needs. Insulation is installed between 2 layers of fabric. And as you can see on this picture, it shows the Keter rail that we've been talking about. It shows how we secure that Keter rail from outside water with our flaps. It also shows a side view from our eave and how we insulate in that roof cavity and encapsulize our inside flange to, again, help with energy code and give you the best insulated building that we can provide. Because of our fabric is airtight and its thermally non-conductive properties, insulated fabric buildings often cost less to heat than comparable insulated metal buildings. Our customers appreciate the savings. Fabric buildings typically have an attic cavity between the insulation and the outer membrane, just like your house. Ventilation is needed to eliminate potential condensation buildup within the cavity. Again, as you see this demonstration, our interior liner then will be applied after our insulation is installed in the building. And that cavity that we've talked about allows us for that passive air ventilation, which is important, again, in preventing condensation and also allowing us to do the best job we can of insulating your structure. Legacy buildings are unique within the fabric building industry because they came standard with soffit and rigid vents, which allow for proper attic cavity ventilation in accordance with building code requirements. Interior space ventilation is typically connected to an HVAC system that will heat and cool the facility. Again, as you can see on the screen, we have extended overhangs. That overhang is where we will have that airflow through a mesh soffit that will vent out the ridge vents of our buildings, which you can see also on this picture. As you've seen throughout the presentation, color can be an essential part of an athletic center. Logos, mascots, team colors are all possible with fabric exteriors. Our fabric team works with a handful of standard colors: white, forest, green, tan, blue, and gray. Although any color combination is available, the fabric guys admit doing white walls all the time can get boring. So it's nice to have a little variety. And again, as you see buildings as they come up on your screen in the different case studies, being able to use some of our standard colors to create some different concepts, it helps you to allow your building to look unique and look special, and work with your school colors to give it the exterior look that the community and your customers are going to want. And this is something that does come up in all conversations, along with the benefits and the practical functions of our building. Creating a extreme exterior look is something we can do. I mentioned earlier that most of our athletic facilities we built are insulated to be used year round. The interior liner on our insulated buildings is very clean, very smooth, very white. Once the lighting is installed, it reflects off the walls and the ceilings. Attendees often comment on how bright the interior is. With LED lighting and some of the indirect light we are seeing, it is remarkable how the interior liner amplifies our building's brightness. Clients have told us that the acoustics inside Legacy's buildings are excellent. Unlike metal buildings or buildings with rigid walls, the fabric walls and liner in our buildings reduce echo. You don't get that loud echo you are accustomed to hearing with steel walls. Any of you who have been in a steel building know what I mean. I know from my experience, coaches want to be heard. Because our buildings have very high ceilings, it would be very easy for that space to become noisy, an echo chamber. We've discovered just the opposite. If you want to be heard, fabric is an excellent building material. The give of the fabric also provides some protection from accidents. However, if the fabric is damaged, it is easily repaired by the building owner or trained crews. If significant damage happens, our panels are much easier to replace than other fabric buildings, especially those that use mono covers. When the whole building consists of one piece of fabric, damage can be quite expensive. Again, you've heard us talk about mono covers. Again, as you've seen our building go together and you heard us talk about individual roof panels, it's important to understand a mono covered building, which is what most of our competitors use, is a piece of fabric that's going from the ground to the ground and most likely larger than our panels on our buildings. Again, if damage were to occur, or as years go on and roofs need to be replaced, it's going to be much more expensive than replacing individual panels. A lot of fabric buildings out there don't have eaves. We do. They give us the ability to have overhangs. The benefits of overhangs might not be obvious, but water management, especially over the main entrances of your sport facilities, can be essential. Gutters can keep your guests dry, and in the winter, icebreakers assist in breaking up snow coming off the roof. And again, as you can see in this picture, having the ability to apply gutters and downspouts and mitigate the water to a water system or away from other parts of your campus or facility becomes a huge part of meeting the codes and meeting how you're going to handle the water. Our buildings are able to do that. Buildings that are very large are going to have shed, and if you have experience with homes or other type of facilities on your campus or on your facility or part of your facility, you understand controlling the snow and the water. Making your sports facilities match other buildings on your site is very important. We can accent our buildings with wood, brick, stone, and other materials to make facilities fit your campus. And again, this becomes a huge benefit when different, again, campuses or city facilities are trying to find ways to meet the needs of maybe their city code, the expectations of their residents with exterior look. We're able to combine traditional material with the benefits of a fabric building to give it not only the look that you're looking for, again, to meet the needs of again, residents or potential customers, along with being able to be proud of your facility from an exterior look. So again, on the screen here is a few that you're able to see how we've been able to accomplish that using a fabric building structure. As we've mentioned earlier in the workshop, our beams can support a lot of options that can turn a simple open space into an amazing sport complex. We get asked a lot, can you hang things from the building? Can you do other things inside the building when, needing to connect, again, whether it's to walls or roof. And again, to continually separate us from an air-supported dome, as you can see, this trapeze school building, there's all kinds of connection points and things, again, that need to be fastened, whether it's to the ceiling or the sidewalls. So being able to do that and customize not only for trapeze school, but also for netting and, again, scoreboards and other athletic equipment that might be needed is certainly possible in our buildings. Our steel beams can support many extras, including large doors, expansive windows, and beautiful designed entrance areas. From the photos I've shown you, you can see that a lot of our customers take advantage of this. We work with a wide variety of door and window suppliers. Our designers can work with your architects to achieve precisely the look you want. That's one of the benefits of a complete customized building. And again, as you look at this screen and you've seen other screens or other shots of our buildings, we get asked again, can you put in windows? Can we put in doors? Can we put in, all of the normal amenities that you would have in a normal building? And the answer is yes. All of those things are, you're able to accomplish those things, keeping, again, the benefits of a very airtight structure that is going to meet your building codes and allow you to save potential dollars, along with keeping the building as maintenance free as possible. So again, as you see, doors, windows, and other entry options are certainly possible. If you plan on a venue with spectators, you can create a space that accommodates your fans. There are no limitations as long as you have space. Again, as you can see in these shots, and this is just two of them, where the buildings are going to be used for fans. They're going to have numbers of activities ranging in a huge range from, again, as you can see, hockey, track and field, mixed in with all the other events that they can hold in these buildings. And again, as long as the space is there and the buildings meet, or the building is built to handle what needs to go inside, based on code and based on getting through those occupancy levels with the city and the city code, you can design a building that can be used for events, not just for practice. Installation is another key difference between our buildings and other fabric buildings on the market. We almost always use our own crews. Since we use a lot of proprietary methods and materials, we want the best trained construction crews out there. Our in-house installation crews travel nationwide and worldwide, and they know precisely how our buildings go together. This has been an advantage for customers who choose Legacy. We use our teams for design, manufacturing, and installation. And again, as most of you know that have been involved in any sort of construction project, being able to control all pieces of our building from a manufacturing standpoint, a delivery standpoint, and an erection and installation standpoint is super important in keeping the building on track as far as the timeline, but also controlling how the building goes up and being able to make sure the customer is getting exactly what they were looking for. This is something that was very important to Ben Fox. This is something that was very important to Legacy, and keeping that integrity has been a goal of ours, and we'll continue in the future to, again, expand our crews throughout the U.S. to be able to meet the needs. But being able to control those things are important in how we keep our integrity when it comes to the installation of our buildings. Before we end today's workshop, I want to highlight a couple of my favorite buildings. As you can see on the screen, the Fox Creek Multiplex is a project that is very big. It consists of 4 units in one building, each providing its own unique challenge. It contains a full hockey arena, an aquatic center with a pool, a community center with administrative offices and gymnasium. Again, I just want to point out that building that you see there is all fabric. That is fabric colors, different colors, I should say, that make up the exterior of that building. There are different ways to apply logos and to be able to give the building that unique look. Again, they use the fabric opportunity here to create a very unique looking building. We also added a 4th unit, a Fieldhouse, that's connected by a breezeway. Kristen Moline, who is the chief administrative officer for Fox Creek, and she told us we wanted the ability to attract moms, families, kids, keep people busy because we are pretty isolated. We should note that Fox Creek is in northern Alberta, 3 hours north of Edmonton. The town has about 3,000 people. Moline told us the building allowed us to get everything we wanted for the price we could afford. I want to spend a minute on the hockey arena and the aquatic center. Again, you've seen the aquatic center in a couple different slides, and you can see the hockey facility here. Putting those two together was a challenge. The interior liner was key here because it helped control pool's high humidity environments on the warm side and the hockey arena's humidity on the cool side. And again, we get asked, not only can we control that interior environment to handle whatever our customers want to put in the building, but again, before we leave Fox Creek, we get asked a lot, can you build in environments like Fox Creek? Can you build in environments like in Florida and in the southern part of our country? And I think one thing that we've demonstrated and we've talked about is because of our structural design, we can meet the needs of the structural design needed for all of those areas, whether it's high winds, whether it's high snows, whether it's high elevation. Those are the things that are going to be important to make sure that your building is safe. And we, again, are proving through our case studies and throughout the buildings throughout the world that we put up that fabric cladding can also, again, make sure that we can handle all of those environmental pieces as well as the interior design needed to handle what environment you're going to put in the building. From a design perspective, the project has it all. It has mezzanines, second floors, walking tracks, dressing rooms, a restaurant, offices, a daycare center, and community meeting rooms. There isn't anything like this in northern Alberta. Moving on to Oklahoma. The Oklahoma City Tennis Center is another project, again, that's located at the Will Rogers Park. The facility is one of the largest municipal tennis centers in the United States. In 2016, they completed the second phase of the expansion, which brought them to a total of 36 courts, along with our indoor 6-court building. The building measures 125 by 300. The interior is designed to meet the USDA standards for the ideal sidewall and peak height. Divider curtains were added to the building frames to protect players from objects flying off the court or to give them that walkway to get to the individual courts. And again, this building has been used in the tennis world to host many USTA facility or competitions. So it was very important to them that the environment inside that building was very controllable. And one thing we hear a lot is not hearing that noise from the outside, whether it's rain, hail, wind, and then again, being able to keep the environment on the inside at the temperature that is desired without the unreasonable cost that can come with trying to heat a building in that Oklahoma heat during the summer. So this has been a very marquee building for us. Again, you can see the bright lighting. You can see the indirect lighting, meaning that the lights are flipped using that interior liner to reflect light and try to keep the glare down in a tennis facility. Again, finding and working with our customers to find the needs or find the solutions to what they need to make their building work for them at the highest level is always the most important to us. As I said, a state-of-the-art LED lighting system is also hung from the steel frames. Along with the white fabric interior lining, again, with those indirect lights, it helps with that, keep that glare-free lighting on all 6 courts. The OK Tennis Center has been well received by the tennis community. In 2016, it was named Municipal Tennis Facility of the Year by the Tennis Industry magazine, and 2016 USTA Outstanding Facility and Large Facility category. The USTA just gave us another award last year for our Del Castle Tennis Center in Wilmington, Delaware. The facility was named an honored facility for 2019. And again, it is important to us that we continually improve, work with our customers in the different types of activities that they're going to host in their buildings. So that was important to us to continually improve our processes. The Kimball High School multi-sport building creates a space that is devoted to wrestling practice during the wrestling season. During the wrestling off season and during school hours, the building is used for other sports and community activities, included early season conditioning and practice for football team. They also have community education classes, pickleball, and even indoor recess during inclement weather. The additional space also takes the pressure off the school's traditional gym space, allowing athletes to work on conditioning before and after school without resorting to extremely early or late hours. The completed building is 45 by 100. It's attached to the school's existing brick building with a fabric breezeway. There are no interior supports, leaving more room for wrestling and other activities. A sprinkler system helps the building meet occupancy codes. Again, I mentioned the breezeway. Again, a challenge with this project. At first glance, they wanted to connect this building to their existing building. As they went through the process, being able to not have to work with old existing infrastructure inside the building and being able to stay with the new code necessary for a new building, a breezeway was able to meet both those needs. So again, finding that solution, being able to work with our customers to give them the look and the feel, again, was something we accomplished here. And I think, we talked about fire suppression a little bit, and you can see the fire suppression in this building. Again, with it being painted white, it's not as noticeable as it is in other buildings that it's not painted white. So if that's a concern, there are ways to blend that in. You obviously can see the very clean and bright finish in this building, which gives them, again, that interior look that is inviting. As you can see, there's padding on our steel frame of our building. So again, that's how we protect the use, or I should say the student athletes in this building from injuring themselves on those steel frames. The rest of that inside interior is a very forgivable trampoline-like effect when it comes to running into it. Obviously, if they're practicing baseball in here, they're throwing balls into it. Again, the building is going to be very low maintenance inside and out. And that makes it very desirable as you look to build an athletic facility for your school. The Pacific Football Club, again, one of my favorites. It was an extreme challenge in a very unique place. It sits at a very high elevation on really the top of a very, we'll say high hill here in Minnesota, low hill in Vancouver area. It's one of the first projects that we've done for a professional soccer club. Pacific Football is a Canadian club based in Greater Victoria, British Columbia, and competes in the Canadian Premier League. It's on an island in the mountains off the coast near Vancouver. Getting the building materials to site was interesting because there were no bridges to the island, only ferries. And again, being able to work through those issues and find a way to cost effectively get our building there so that our crews again can erect this building in a very challenging site was something that we took on as a great challenge, and were able to give the football club the building that they were looking for. As the slides say, it's a bit more than 50,000 square feet and contains 3 turf fields and a multi-use soft court for futsal, basketball, volleyball, pickleball, and general play. This is the largest indoor field house in British Columbia, and from our experience, it's one of the most beautiful settings we've ever worked in. Now, again, before we leave this slide, you've seen numbers of pictures of inside buildings. The main difference in this one is it is not insulated and it is not lined. Now, again, the environment in the Vancouver Island area is such that they don't have the extreme cold temperatures. Keeping rain and wind and the outside elements off of them was the number one desire. So being able to, again, find ability to value engineer, meet the needs that they're looking for. And in this case, the insulation, that interior liner was not the number one goal. It was keeping the environment off. Without the insulation, they also get the natural light. So again, depending upon where you're located, what the building is going to be used for, what the budget is allowing you to do, there are lots of different solutions that we can find to meet the needs of our customers throughout the U.S. and throughout the world, for that matter. And again, if you ever make it to Vancouver Island and you get to Langford, you're going to see this building very proudly on a hill overlooking their community. And slowly, as we work through the COVID issue, this building will get used even more by their community. Just for a quick recap before we get to some questions. Again, the materials used to tension fabric structures, hopefully is something you saw today, which is a rigid steel frame along with fabric that's tensioned over a building that's not going to flex or move. Combining those different materials, and again, the process that we use to put up our buildings allows us to get the strength and longevity of the structure that all of us are looking for. And again, we pointed out, as many as we could in the time allotted, the benefits that these structures have for sports venues. On our website, you'll see many more case studies. Certainly, after we're done here today, you can reach out and we can talk about your specific needs, along with the space that you might have available, along with what you might need to do to connect it or put it amongst other facilities. So again, to make very clear, we are a permanent structure. We are not an air-supported dome, which most people are familiar with. We'll be able to accomplish many more things than you would have been able to with maybe a dome that you have or one that you've looked at putting up. Those are some of the buildings. I guess now I'd like to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Shannon. That was a great presentation. It was really exciting to see all the possibilities that you guys are able to do in terms of field houses. And I'm sure lots of other possibilities aside from athletics as well that we can get into. So we do have some questions here. Just a reminder for our live attendees to send in your questions through the Q&A and we'll get those answered as well. So our first question is, can you tell us if there are any increased fire protection needs that are associated with these fabric buildings?
No, going to be very similar to a traditional building when it comes to codes needed to handle whatever the fire suppression code for that local jurisdiction would be.
Okay, what about solar panels? Can you put those on the roof of one of these structures?
We have had solar panels applied to our building. Again, with the type of structure that we use, we can handle, really mounting anything from the inside or the outside. So it just comes down to making sure we understand what is going to be mounted on the building. We're not the solar energy people, so we would collaborate with them to figure out that best practice on applying them to our building. But yes, they have been applied to our buildings.
You kind of touched on about how roof penetrations aren't allowed, but are wall penetrations available for these structures?
Yeah, again, roof penetrations are allowed. I think because of the nature of our buildings, we would like to use any sort of sidewall or end wall penetration when it comes to venting, just to avoid having to have, again, because our buildings are going to shed, whether it's snow or rain, and anything that is penetrating through our roof is potentially going to have some damage. So if we can avoid penetrating through our roof, we certainly try to do that.
Sure, that makes sense. How does Legacy Building Solutions work with companies installing artificial turf, specifically related to the foundation?
Yeah, typically turf is going to be supplied or is going to be installed on grade. So it's going to be installed on, some sort of stone base. So when it comes to the foundation, we supply the reactions to the contractor who is typically going to be in charge of putting in that foundation. And then that foundation will be then something that will be worked, or again, the turf company will collaborate with them on what they might need if they need some sort of a continuous ring curb on the inside, along with what we need to tension our building. So it really becomes a collaboration between the turf company. Typically, in most of these projects, there's a contractor involved. We would be most of the time a subcontractor with that contractor. So we'll all be working together. Obviously, the foundation is designed based on our building reactions, and then collaborating with whatever type of flooring they're going to put in the building.
Can we expand a little bit upon that about the collaboration? I'm sure that's pretty commonplace for these projects. So you said it typically starts with the contractor. Just kind of walk us through the process for an AD or an athletics administrator, how they would go about getting to you, and then like the types of companies that you work with, like you said, subcontracting to get the whole structure together.
Yeah, a lot of times, most of the school projects that we're involved with, the schools will have reached out or maybe done some research to find out what options are out there. And then, as all of us know, it becomes a much bigger project if you have public money involved with some private money. And then the school will go through their typical process of how they're either going to, go out to bid with the project, or they're able to use all private dollars, secure a project manager / contractor. There are projects that we have taken on in that capacity. We typically find that there's going to be a process that each school is going to use. And if we can be brought to the table with, again, not just contractor, but architect, civil engineers, again, depending upon the size of the campus, those two entities might be employees of the campus itself. So bringing architect, civil engineer, along with potential project construction management group with us to really understand how our building can fit into the project they're looking at doing. And usually, the reason a number of people are on this call is because we're all trying to find ways to do things for less and still get the amenities and the look that you're looking for. So I guess what I would say is to the ADs out there, understand our product as best you can. And when you get to the table to talk about how to possibly start a project like this, we would like to be at that ground floor so that everybody involved understands how to use our building. Architects, contractors, again, mechanical and civil engineers. If everybody involved in the project understands what our building can do, I think we can value engineer a product that obviously can meet the needs of each campus. So long-winded answer. I think there's a lot in that question. Hopefully I answered it to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely. That was very helpful. We have a question coming in. They're saying they have some regulations with the building look on their campus. Do you have experience with adding precast on the outside of your buildings to match the rest of a campus?
Yeah, we currently are involved in a project on a campus university where that was exactly the issue that they had. They'd been working on this building project for a number of years. They were not able to get through the city expectations, the campus expectations, the community's expectations, as far as the exterior look, and be able to afford it. And so as we started working with them, that is exactly their solution, is they're going to use some sort of it's an insulated tip-up panel that is going to be up to 24 feet around the perimeter of the building, again, to give it the look that they want. Not necessary, as you can see, and as you've seen in the videos that we've shown today, but it's certainly less expensive than building a traditional brick and mortar building. That's a great question, and the answer is yes.
You showed us an example, I think, with the wrestling facility, but if you could just dive a little bit deeper, if someone would like to add additional space to their building, how is it possible that they could connect one of these to an existing building? And do you do that often?
I don't know that I would say often. I think it just depends on how close we can get, and if you can create a breezeway that is going to, again, work with the existing facility, because amenities is sometimes what they're after for these facilities. Connecting to an existing building, again, it's going to be a challenge if we have to deal with snow shed in some of those areas of the country, because we have to understand where that snow is going to go. When adding on to our building or adding on to an existing building, if we can do it from the gabled end, and that would just be from the ends of the building, where we don't have to worry about snow shed, and we can extend in a direction that's going to eliminate some of the concerns, it's going to be much easier. And we certainly have built buildings with the idea that they want to add on to their building, but it would be in length, not in width, because our frames are going to be designed to widespan a certain distance. So not as reasonable to try to figure out how to add on to the side of the building. I think we've been up for many challenges, and if we can find a way to work with the local building codes when it comes to proximity of buildings to other buildings, we can find a way to connect them if that's the goal.
Can we talk a little bit about the average timeline of a typical manufacturer for you and delivery once the final designs have been completed?
Yeah, typical, we're going to be, from 12 to 20 weeks. Obviously, the COVID issues that we're all going through has changed and made that timeline a little bit trickier, just with how we're traveling across state lines, and really, as we're traveling around the globe and trying to meet the needs of local communities when it comes to dealing with that particular issue. But I think our standard answer is going to be 12 to 20 weeks from the time we get the go button. Obviously, there's a lot of collaboration that goes into keeping everybody on pace to finish the project. I can say we take pride in that. Typically, we're ready to go before site is ready, and before everybody else is ready to accept our building. So we take pride in being able to find the most challenging timelines.
We touched a little bit about artificial turf, and then the ability to have natural light incorporated as well. So because you can do natural light and have skylights, is it possible to have natural grass in one of your buildings, or maybe a combination of turf and natural grass?
Our fabric is, protects you from UV, which is probably makes it not possible to grow natural grass. I'm not going to say that it can't be tried. I would say that we would say that wouldn't be a good option, and probably not something that would work with the way our fabric is going to eliminate that UV from the sunlight. The skylights themselves, again, in the northern climates, just want to point out they are a challenge, because energy code is something that we have to meet. And so when you eliminate insulation and you add skylights, you have to be able to do it in such a way that we can. So this can be a challenge, again, in extreme warm climates and extreme cold climates. We have done it. And again, it's going to be working with all those local officials to make sure we meet building code when it comes to skylights. Again, I'm not a biologist, so I kind of skate around that. I'm not sure. Someone out there might say we can figure out a way to grow grass. So I guess I'll leave it at that.
Oh, no, that makes sense. You mentioned outside of the webinar about the recent project that you collaborated on at Stony Brook University. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and their field house? Yeah,
again, their field house is very unique because it has a couple of very unique aesthetic, or I should say exterior looks. We reversed our frames on that building, which gave it a different look because the tapers part of the frame is now to the outside. we also put a rounded peak on that building. And again, these were all architectural features that they wanted when they started their quest on how to build this building. So us being able to meet those needs, being able to give them a fabric building was obviously important, and it kept the cost down. They also, as we just talked about skylights, they also did not insulate their end walls. So again, very unique, because you heard me just say that getting through that energy code is difficult, but they do have natural light coming in their end walls of that building. It's roughly 180 by 310. It's, very tight, but it is a full football field, or very close to a full football field. And so them being able to use it again throughout the day for all of their activities when it comes to practice, and giving them the exterior look they wanted, and again meeting energy code and allowing them to get some natural light was something we were able to accomplish. They did build a 7,000 square foot lobby building, similar to what you see on the screen right here, obviously much bigger than that entryway. That is a traditional brick and mortar building, and being able to connect that building to our building was something that was important to them. Back to your original question, if in the beginning stages of construction, we are building two buildings, one of brick and mortar and one of ours, that are going to, again, interact with each other, that is going to be much more accomplishable than if we're trying to connect to an existing building. So again, not that you can't connect to an existing building, it's just that when you're building two new buildings and connecting them, you can control all the variables, again, to work through the building codes that you need to meet. So again, on our site, and again, anybody out there that wants to see the Stony Brook building, they did open up in January. They only got about a week and a half before COVID shut their building down, and I think they're back to using it to some degree. So we only got a glimpse at how that building was going to help them with all their students, not just their athletes.
Can we quickly, I know we're coming up at the hour mark here, but talk a little bit more about the additional amenities that you can install inside the building. You did talk about that one that had all that kind of crazy stuff with the restaurant and everything. But how does it work when you want to install locker rooms or team rooms, coaches spaces, things like that?
Yeah. So yeah, the building you're looking at is the one that has all those amenities. The easiest way to picture it is it most likely is going to be a building inside of our envelope. So a building inside the building. So building traditional locker rooms, building traditional office-based buildings, or I should say rooms, can be done in our building just like they could be done in any other structure. We do have facilities that incorporate the exterior walls with traditional material, just meaning that, again, throughout that design stage and architectural stage, it is possible for part of the building to be a traditional building and then move into our fabric cladding. Most often, it's going to be a self-supported building, if you want to call it that, or room inside our envelope. And as we've gone through this exercise time and time again, that typically becomes the most inexpensive way to accomplish, again, whatever needs, you're looking for inside. So in that pool building, and you can kind of see it through the glass windows, there's a sheetrocked wall there that separates their community center, where you can see the entryway and the windows over that entryway. That is going to be all of their amenity offices, along with restaurant and weight room and community area. So again, just a regular traditional build inside our envelope.
Okay, probably one last question here. Do you warranty these structures? And if so, can you describe a couple of these types of experiences?
Yeah, so I think anybody that has any experience with dealing with warranties, if the building is manufactured and erected and installed by all of the same people, it is much easier to work through any sort of warranty issue or just workmanship issue or something that just doesn't seem right. We don't have to, find or track somebody down. I mean, if it's an issue with our building, whether it's a warranty issue or again, just something that maybe isn't just right, you only got to look to one company. And I think that's a huge factor in being able to take care of our customers. From a warranty standpoint, it's a 25-year warranty on our fabric. The life expectancy is 25 years plus. The PVC fabric's been around long enough for us to understand how it is going to be affected, again, by the sun and by the environment. So I think just like any other building material, I don't believe of any other warranty longer than that on roof systems and building material. But I think the number one takeaway is anything when it comes to, again, warranty or workmanship or something that our customers don't feel is right, we're not relying on somebody else. It is us and us alone that will be able to solve and work with the customer to handle something like that.
That's great. Good information. Good to know. So I guess as we close out here, how do our listeners get started with something? Is it best to reach out to you directly, Shannon?
Yeah, I think, as you asked the question, how do you even start this process? I think, yes, absolutely. Reach out to me. I would suggest, again, they can spend time on our website if they want to start there. There's lots of information there. Our marketing department does a great job, and we, try to do the best we can to have all of that information available. But again, reaching out to me. Typically in a normal year, I'm doing a lot of traveling and visiting sites and meeting with groups of people and presenting to whether it's a committee or whether it's, the AD himself, or again, a board that needs to figure out how they're going to afford this. Certainly that is the place to start. And again, what we're hoping to be able to do is help you find a place to start and help you through this whole process, which can be very cumbersome and very long and very tedious, and really try to find an option that's going to save the budget and give you all the amenities that you want. So absolutely start with me, and I will do what I can to direct you in the best steps possible.
You kind of touched on it just there. I mean, in terms of budget, I'd imagine because all of these projects are just so creative and everybody's situation is different, it's kind of hard to come up with a blanket starting point. Would that be right? I mean, you have to kind of get into the weeds just a little bit to see what these schools are looking for in terms of that starting point financially.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, the nice thing about our building is because we control all those parts, it's easy for me to give somebody a cost on what our part's going to be. What's the envelope cost? And that's usually a huge help because, if it's a 300 or 100 by 300 foot building, or the footprint of the building, getting to that building part and then talking through all the other things, I think we can get to a starting point. You're absolutely right. As we get into the weeds a little bit and really try to determine all these other amenities, there's going to be a lot more people to talk to as far as, the turf people and some of the other equipment needs, as well as, flooring, if it's going to be some sort of a poured urethane or something different than turf. So yes, I would say you are correct, but I think we can get you to a starting point that allows you to start the conversations. That's typically, I'm involved in, starting the conversations with the group of donors or the board or the community, depending upon, where you're going to go to get your funding.
Well, great. Well, Shannon, thank you again from the NACDA team for having this conversation with us today. Thank you for all of our members who tuned in live. We appreciate your continued support of NACDA and all of our affiliate associations. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Shannon directly. You'll be receiving this recording directly via email. So take care, everybody. Be well, and we hope to see you online again very soon.
Thank you, Dana.